the Hangout. All right, so you all have been a part of sprint retrospectives before, and I'm going to try to follow the same format as Camilo has done in the past. And we'll start with, actually I'm going to tell you what all the questions are first, so that we don't get ahead of ourselves, because I've noticed that's something that sometimes happens. The questions are very very specific, and they have very good purposes, each one. There's only one place in the sprint retrospective where we actually ask what would we do differently next time. What do we want to do differently? So if we ask you, the question is, what did we learn? That's not the time to start saying things that we need to do differently next time. And so the questions are, what do we do well that if we don't discuss right now, we might forget? Like, we need to talk about our successes. What did we do really well? The next question is, what did we learn? That's not always something bad that we learned. Sometimes it's something good that we learned, like learned how to use Log4Net. That was the guys from Starscream. They were just all about learning how to use Log4Net. And so we learned how to use Log4Net, or learned how to use this other feature, or we learned something more about CQRS. The next question is, what should we do differently next time? That's where we kind of, when we start talking about retrospective of a project, our minds immediately go to the bad stuff. What do we need to change? Well, we're saving that until later in the retrospective. We want to get all the good stuff out first. And then the last thing is, what still puzzles us? What is it could feature about the product? What do we not know about yet? That's kind of like got us scratching our heads. So that's the last question in retrospective, and we'll just go around the chat, and I'm seeing Aida here to my left, and then Danilo, and then Richard, and Nathaniel. You can participate if you want to, or you can just listen. But let's start with Aida. Aida, your question is, and we'll go down the line. What did we do well this week, this sprint, that if we don't discuss right now, we might forget?
I believe that what we do well this time was to separate well the cards, and everything was really most of them well defined, except for the burn down chart. That I think we miss a lot of things there, but I think we separate everything really well, and the work team was really well in that sense, because we could work in pairs even if we have a lot of people working on the project. So that leaves us with a really good progress on the project.
Excellent. Milo, what did we learn? No, sorry. What was the question? What did we do well, even if we didn't discuss it right now, we might forget it? What did we learn? Or, sorry, what did we do well? I'm getting confused by my own questions.
I think we did well in separating the cards related with burnout chart. I thought at the first time that it was a huge requirement for being in just a one card. I think that was a really good idea to separate it in chunks in different features, and that helped a lot to finish that and trace a path as a guide to work in that feature. Also, I like it a lot, the way we work in the teamwork that we did in this sprint, because until the end that we are working in the burnout chart, there was all of us involved working on that, and I like that a lot.
Very cool. Richard, same question for you.
Okay, I think what we did well here is basically just the same about what Aida and Danilo said. We actually had a great communication. I really liked that the team, the other members, were eager to help us. First, for example, me and Danilo and me, we were new in the project, so I usually ask Aida and so for things about the project, and they were eager to help, even though they were with their own cards. So I think we did well that because they usually took the time to explain us, even though they had their cards. Also, I really like the fact that we divided the cards. We managed to knock out most of the cards in the first week, but I think we had some issues in the end, but we might leave them in another question. That so breaking up the cards was a good thing too. So that's for me.
Excellent. Aida, what do you think we learned from this sprint? Good things that we learned.
Well, for this spring, at least for me, I learned how to use D3 for the burn-down chart. We were with Richard just looking at most of the AngularJS directives to draw graphs. We went through like 3 or 4 choices, and we managed to get to decide for one of them and to put it in practice. So I think that is one thing that we learn and is going to be useful in the future for other projects.
Excellent. Danilo, same question. What did we learn?
Okay, I learned a lot about the function, the way AngularJS works. Also, I work a lot. I learned a lot about the domain-driven design that was applied in the project. Also, learn a lot about CQRS, and I'm feeling like I have expanded a lot of knowledge in AngularJS about its directives. Yeah, that was really cool. There was almost a directive for everything. I think I didn't have any hardship, found something to work with in Angular, and that's it. And also to have a better communication with the team. And that's it.
My
Oh,
turn.
Richard, yeah, same question. What did we learn? Good things that we learned this time.
Oh, I learned a lot of things in this sprint. Mostly of them were front end. I learned some things in the back end. Let's start with the Trello and GitHub API. So I learned everything about that. I also learned the webhook things that we were well, that was like wow, I didn't know that even existed.
Isn't the concept of webhook awesome?
Yeah, that's wow. That's what I really like about this sprint. That I really managed to learn that. I also learned things about charts. We were actually experimenting with AIDA several choices, so we managed to stay with D3, and we're actually still learning it, but we managed to learn a lot. In the back end, I also learned small things that I didn't know, like exception repackagers. That I think I reached out with Byron to help me a little bit with that. I also learned with all of the members of the team in Hibernate. Well, we had some issues with in Hibernate, and were some things that we didn't even know that how to do them. So we learned that, and I think that's it for me. I think that's what I learned this sprint.
Very cool. Very cool. I love to hear when you all are learning about the technologies that are core to so many of our projects. That means that next time we have a project that has the same tech stack, feel right at home. I love that. Aida, what if you had your choice of things to do differently? What would you do differently in the next sprint?
I think give it more time to think about the cards, probably before having the poker planning, or we can have just our own time to go through the cards and just write down some questions and some detail about them, because, for example, on the burn-down chart, until we were working with Richard on it, we start like writing down a really big list about things that we missed there. So like, okay, what is happening if we change that due date? Or what is going to happen is we did this? Or if the ideal points, they're not a good match for the total points that Trello board has. So we write it down, a lot of questions there. So at the end we say, okay, I think we are missing a lot of things here. So that I think we need like writing down a lot of questions before going to the real planning sprint with all the team.
I like that. I like that idea a lot. Danilo, what would you do differently next week, next sprint?
I agree with Aida about planning more thoroughly a feature that seems a little bit bigger, because I thought at the first time when planning the planning meeting for the past sprint that we took a little bit lightly some cards, for example, about the adding the additional GitHub repositories to the project. When I was working on that, I felt like where we pointed it a little bit lightly for the lot of work that it took me to do it. Also, about the burnout chart, I felt too that we underestimated that there was a big feature and it had a little bit of things that we didn't consider in the planning. I think that we have to see more thoroughly a feature in the next sprint planning, to point size correctly all the cards. That's it.
Richard, what would you do differently next sprint?
Okay, so issues with this sprint, I think I think the only issue this sprint was the burn down chart, at least for the cards that I worked on, sorry. So I think maybe we should have splitted the card. And then again, it wasn't a lot about the card being underestimated. I think it was the issue we had with in Hibernate. We spent like around a day or a day and a half just in that issue. Maybe that time we might have spent it in doing the work that it required. So I think that thing would be the thing that I do different. Maybe learn a little more about Hibernate and trying to fix those issues we had. Also, I think something we did wrong, or at least we didn't have any choice, was the pattern we used in the front end. At first, I was a little confused since we're using MVC and a lot of views are using the same controller, and maybe the views don't hint that they're using that controller. And so I had to go here and there to find out which view had the controller. So that was something that it took me time in the first week, but I managed to learn it in the second. So that's something I might do different in the next sprint. Maybe change that and refactor it or something and make it a little more readable.
Yeah, I agree about that. That's something that I've seen in other projects. So it's probably like a pattern that we've been doing as a team, and we need to get away from that. We need to let one control be for one view. And
yeah, that pattern MVC is cool, but with small apps, but maybe with a lot of views and a lot of functionality, it doesn't work a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt us to add an extra controller. It's basically free. It doesn't take a lot of time to add a new controller, and it saves a lot of trouble. Now, services, on the other hand, one controller, several controllers could use one service, no problem.
Yeah, I have no issues there.
I usually, in the front end, I think more along the lines of MVVM, more like MVC. In the MVVM, the idea is that you have one controller per view.
Purview, yeah, it's a lot
and it
better.
seems a lot better for us. Okay, sorry, I cut you off. Continue, Richard. What else would you do
And
differently?
then the other sprint, maybe adding mockups. I think that was something we talked about in the sprint planning.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
an issue because in the burn down chart, we actually had to think about how we were going to add
Mm,
the burn down chart. And I think that something that might solve is something that Aida said, something related that we didn't have like a lot of how do you say validations. So we thought
yeah.
about that validations beforehand. So if we had some mockups, we can say, and if this thing goes like this, and maybe we can add some validations at that point, and maybe add better estimates for it so we don't lose time that in the sprint. Also, something that we did wrong here, I think, was the template. Yeah, I think it's underestimated, and I think we didn't have any time even to start it. So I just started this morning, and I think it's a little underestimated. I think it might take a lot more time than it's, and I think that's what we did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any more comments.
Okay, so Aida, what's the next question? Is there anything that still puzzles us? And do you understand the verb to puzzle? Like what
Um,
puzzles us? What's got us confused? What has us scratching our heads? Like, I don't really understand that.
right now, I think the only problem we have sometimes is with the Trello API that, yeah, it does really weird things sometimes. And
Of what?
um, like sometimes it doesn't get that token well. We have to like restart everything, create new board to test. So yes, that is something that maybe we have to do some more research to see if we can have a way to develop and test quicker and better. So and for the Hibernate too, we have some issues there. So I think we have to learn a little bit more about it, so we don't spend so much time just looking what we are missing there, or some issues that they just pop up in the middle of the project.
Cool. Danilo, same question. What still has us puzzled? What have we not figured out yet?
Hmm. Um, I think personally, I think my securities and the knowledge wasn't is not like Saul's one, and I have a little bit trouble figuring out how things work when adding the GitHub, adding multiple GitHub repositories on the same project. Um, Also, with the front end work, I didn't have any problem, but some back end problems understanding how some things work and understanding a little bit the webhooks that I think they are great, right? I think they are great. But in the Trello case, I think that there is one some problems because sometimes it in when a card is moved, it was last about 4 minutes to post on the timeline, and knowing that why is it causing is a little bit a pain because we didn't figure out why is what is causing it. We suppose that is a overload of webhooks or load in the channel that they are causing it, but didn't certainly know what is causing it. Also, personally, I have a little bit hard time with ngrok that sometimes didn't work at all. even the page, when I try to work, to test what is it causing the ngrowth downtime, I go to the page and I find it that is it's frozen. It doesn't load, and they doesn't provide a way to test if they are up or down. Well, since it is free, we don't have so many options, uh, but I think that it will be, there is some days that they got special and don't want to work, and that's it.
Excellent. Yeah. So sometimes our external services have have us puzzled because we don't always know how we should expect them to react, or sometimes they don't react the way a normal person would expect, like a 4-minute lag time after a card move. That would be difficult because in the first 30 seconds, I would assume, well, it didn't work. And then after it comes in after 4 minutes, I probably won't even notice that it came in because I've already decided that it didn't work. So, yeah, that's frustrating. Okay, Richard, same
Man,
question. What has us puzzled?
it's really hard to answer last. Everyone said already the things that puzzle us in the sprint.
We'll
So
save the best for last, Richard.
yeah, okay. So okay, so things that puzzle me, the same as the other guys. We had issues with the webhook. I didn't know why the webhook sent the things in the like 10 minutes after we actually sent the event. We had issues with Trello. I didn't know why Trello was failing. We actually sent a request and nothing, no, with no response, and maybe send it again like 5 minutes later, and whoa, it's working. And we didn't change any code, so I didn't know why that happened. Also, the things with ngrok, I didn't know why it never connected sometimes. Some things I might add, some were related with D3 in the charts. I had some issues since we're using a directive. That thing is puzzling me. I don't know if it's correct to use like a directive, something that other guy developed. Maybe we can develop our own directives. And it's puzzling me because I had some issues there that apparently were good in the documentation, and when trying them were not correct. And at least for the tech part, that was my concerns. Project-wise, the idea of the project, I really like the project, but I really don't know how our clients going to use it. Are they going to be administrators, and that the client part is the thing that it's puzzling me. Maybe how are people going to use the project aside from only viewing the things, and that's pretty much it from my side.
Right. Excellent. Well, so the sprint retrospective is not necessarily focused on providing answers, but sometimes they're appropriate. And I do want to answer the last question you had, Richard, because I think it's at least pretty valuable, I would say, that you all understand the value of what you're doing. We're not just creating a cool project. We're creating a project that could possibly be sold or used to provide extra value to our clients. So for me, well, this is kind of like the current idea of the use case. Project Wall is not going to provide clients with a way to do anything except for view. But for our clients, so the whole impetus behind Project Wall is that we want to provide our customers with a lot of extra confidence. And one of the things that can sometimes erode or chip away at the confidence of a client is if they feel like there's not any progress happening. Well, we internally know that there's all kinds of progress happening. We've got our Slack channel, we've got all this chat stuff going on. We can see the Trello board cards moving across. We can see the GitHub repo commits coming in. We can see all that stuff. Now we can see it all kind of like in its different areas. So we can go to github.com and see the commits. Go to Trello.com and see the cards. We can go to Slack.com and see the chat. We can go to all these places and we can see all this activity, but the client has no window into any of that unless we start giving them access to our back-end resources, which we don't always want to do. So, so Project Wall gives them that window into their project that they're paying a lot of money for. And it's not something that we have to do either. We can just say, hey, everything's cool, and then they can just wait for the sprint demo at the end of 2 weeks, and they'll probably be fine. But we want to be better than the competition. We want to be better than all the other development shops in the world. And this is going to be one little way that we can get a leg up on our competition, because our competition doesn't have anything like this that we know of. Until we start selling this to them, and we're going to charge them a lot of money.
There is the thing that was puzzling me. I thought that this was only an internal product, maybe just to give it to our clients, but selling it, that's a really good idea.
Well, so it starts as an internal project just for us, and we're going to show it just to our clients, and we're the only ones that are going to have this edge. But after maybe 6 months or a year of actually using it internally and really adding to it and making it awesome, making it worth selling, then we start, we'll charge our competition, some large amount of money per month, and they'll pay it because they're tired of everybody saying how Ackland Avenue has this and don't they. And then, then we'll start really seeing some value from this. But for at first, just until we can get it really, really awesome, we're going to show it just to our clients, and we're going to our clients are going to have a great window into our products, their project that they're working on, and they're going to have all kinds of confidence, and everything works out better when the client has a lot of confidence, because then after the project is over, they come right back and they say, hey, we've got more. We had such a good experience with you. We've got more work. Let's do some other stuff together, which is exactly what we want. We want our old clients to come back and do other projects. The best way to new work. Again, this is not all about answers, but as far as like the in hibernate, I know yesterday I was totally unavailable, and today is going to be another day where I'm kind of not really available. But when I am available, use me, because I've been using in hibernate for as long as I've been programming in .NET almost. So if there is a problem that you're having, I've probably had it 5 times. And sorry for not being very available to answer those yesterday, but before, well, there are times when I'm available, there are times when I'm not. Sometimes I'm working with a client, like today, I've got a 4-hour pairing session with a client in California. Wait a minute, Danilo, where are you located?
In Oakland right now.
Is that near San Francisco?
Yeah, you just cross the Bay Bridge and then you're in San Francisco.
Okay, well, that's where my client's from.
Oh, cool.
We're working with a startup called Sportlinks. And Sportlinks, and they're saying that they're wanting to hire the rest of our development team because we're implementing. Listen, we're implementing Angular, Bootstrap, and Hibernate, CQRS, the command handler that was written by our team, domain events that was written by me, our Ackland Avenue, they're using our stack, and they want us to come and work on it. So hopefully that'll be in the next couple months.
Wow, that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, sweet spot. Okay, so
I have something more to add.
hey, go ahead.
You said something about the problem being in Hibernate. The issue was that we didn't even know what the problem was. We figured out in Hibernate was the issue later on, so just wanted to clear that up. It wasn't a Hibernate noobs thing.
Okay, so the thing that separates the thing that separates a true senior developer from any of the other like non-senior developer levels is being able to hear or see an error, and you've had so much experience that you've seen that error before and you know how to fix it.
You're an error compiler then.
That's what a senior developer. That's almost the definition of a senior developer is knowing, not knowing how to code, but knowing how to fix a bug when you get it. And you all are on your way to having that level of seniorness, because when you get one of these bugs, you're like spending all this time spinning your wheels trying to get it, but you finally understand it, and then that's like something that's stuck in your mind. It'll never leave. It's like riding a bike. You'll never forget that, and then the next time it happens, and it will, you'll be the one who says, "Hey, I remember how to fix this." You'll have it fixed in 5 minutes, and no problem. And so what I love is if there was some way when you, and I don't think this is possible, I think it requires matrix technology, but if there was some way for when you have a bug that you're working through, that somehow that process gets logged into a database, and then the next time that bug happens, that database gets queried first, and it says, this is what you're supposed to do. That'd be so cool. But
I have another thing that's bothering me.
Okay.
Okay, this project will work fine for projects that we develop, right? But what about things, projects, or when we do something like near staff augmentation, like in IBL, where every developer is putting in the same repository as developers from the company? How is it going to work in our side, or it hasn't been thought about that?
Right. So I haven't really thought about that, but for you're thinking about it like IVL.
Yeah, something like that.
So it would basically be IVL using Project Wall as a way of viewing their projects, not necessarily Ackland Avenue's involvement, but just the whole project as a whole.
Okay.
So I think it would work great for them. It wouldn't be a way for us to say, hey, here's Ackland Avenue's participation.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, cool.
I'm getting an alert saying I've got a meeting starting in 5 minutes. I'm not even sure what it is yet, but this is the day of meetings.
Cool.
One last thing in this last couple of minutes is I said this to the last team, and I got some good response. Aida, you said that before the sprint planning that it would be good if the developers take a look at the Trello board and think about things and jot down a list, some questions and some observations. That is awesome. And what I said to the last team is in the sprint planning meetings, let that be your opportunity to ask all the questions you can possibly ask. Load Nathaniel down with questions. He's not going to complain about that. In fact, Nathaniel or any client is going to feel really encouraged by the level of engagement, because when you ask questions, you show that you care, you show that you're engaged, and you show a level of understanding that you probably wouldn't be able to show if you hadn't asked the question. And so questions don't express ignorance, they express engagement, and I give a crap. So when you're in these sprint plannings, let that be your opportunity to ask as many questions as you possibly can. Why? Because when you put an estimate on a card, you're not just putting a number out there. You're saying, I really believe that this functionality, based on my understanding, this functionality will take me this much time or this much effort. And when you do that, it's kind of like a commitment. You're basically saying, I can do this. And so then when it comes down to it and you can't do it because there were some things that you missed about it, there were some things you didn't understand, it wasn't very well explained, acceptance criteria was incomplete, whatever the case, when you can't do it, it's almost like a failure. You were not able to do it. It's almost like you said, I can finish this race, not win this race, I can finish this race, and you get to the half mark, and you take it. It's like that kind of failure. So, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm just trying to kind of up the ante a little bit, up the understanding of the commitment that we're doing when we estimate things. So when I put a number on something, you can just ask Nathaniel. When I put a number on something, when I'm estimating things, I load him down with questions. I ask him all kinds of crap. And he's probably sometimes like, why are you even asking that? We've done this 1,000 times. Why are you even asking that? But I don't believe in assumptions. Assumptions get me in trouble. And so when I assume, my dad used to say, if you think about how you spell the word assume, he said, when you assume, you make an ass of you and me. That's how you spell the word assume. You make an ass of you and me. So, yeah. So remember that when we're in these planning meetings, remember that the number that you put on there is very important. It's your personal almost assurance that you can get this done in this amount of time. But before you put that number on there, of course, you want to be very sure of yourself and of your knowledge and understanding of the thing. So that's, these sprint planning meetings could take an entire day, and that would be okay, because just think about it. If we had loaded down that burn down chart with all the questions, if we really, really, really thought through every single thing and spent, several hours in a sprint planning meeting, taking breaks, everybody going to get coffee, whatever, and really, really asking a lot of questions about that, we would have been more prepared with the sprint, with the burn down chart. We would have had the question answered ahead of time, possibly. And we would have known, possibly, that we weren't going to be able to get the whole thing done all at once in one sprint. Now, all that to say, also, sometimes we're just going to miss estimates. Sometimes we're not going to be able to think through everything in the sprint planning meeting, because sometimes the only way for you to find the answer to sometimes the only way to know what question you're supposed to be asking is when you get into the code. And when you start, typing things and adding packages and trying things. So, it's kind of like we need to be doing better at asking questions in our sprint plannings, just so that we can get better. And then also when we fail, then we just get right back up and keep on going.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But no assumptions.
No assumptions.
Okay. Apparently there's this other meeting starting, so I'll stop the recording, and thanks for a great meeting. I loved all the participation. I loved your thoughts, and we're gonna apply the things that we talked about today to the next sprint and any future sprints, and keep on improving, constant improvement. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.